Welcome to this edition of At the Mic. I am your host, Keith Malinak. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive edition here. We do this every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. We have a long form conversation about a topic. We have a few topics actually today that I want to get to with my guest here momentarily. So thanks for making time. A week from today, of course, is Thanksgiving, and there's no. Let me say this. There's no deep dive planned for a week from today. Who knows? We'll see. I might drop in if I have a moment. But thank you, as always, for making time here. I'm really grateful. And before I forget, if you're ever interested, because it's getting cold, especially right for Thanksgiving, they're saying that the what is it? The polar vortex. Give me a break. A cold front coming through a week from now, and you'll want to get your winter cap. Send me a DM. Hopefully we can get that to you before that next blast of cold air. Everything you need is over at the, it's always awkward to say, available at themicshow.com. You can see it right there. And that's all the links: Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Rumble. It will go live on YouTube and Rumble tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, and then tomorrow morning. Thank you so much to Hero West for all that he does. He and I sat down and had a great conversation yesterday about the future of the website. So no pressure, Wes, but thank you. At Second Floor Dallas, follow him on X. Also on X is Gabby. You can follow her at Jeffy Apologist. She does all the awesome work for the Instagram channel. So thank you to both of those awesome human beings. Another awesome human being. How do you like that? Is that a great segue or what there, Colonel? Huh? Okay.
Absolutely. I'll take that.
You'll take that. I tell you what, there's a lot happening in the world, and you came to mind this week. And I thought, you know what? I have some questions about what's happening at the White House with Saudi Arabia. And I said, you know what? I got to get the Colonel on this week. That's who I'm going to talk to. But since you graciously agreed to join me, there's been a couple other things come up. And so there's a couple of several issues now that I want to talk to you about. But where do we begin? Okay, so we have talked on a previous episode, which and Colonel, you got to go to her Rumble channel, the Colonel's Corner. So go there, subscribe, share that, because there's some great discussions happening over there all the time. So great content, the Colonel's Corner on Rumble. And there's a reason why you came to mind. Let me back up. We've talked before. Pinned to the top here of my X channel or wherever you're watching this, find other conversations that we've had, because you have opened our eyes to Operation Gladio. We've talked about the whole Arctic frost situation that involved the leaking of. See, I love how they finally pay attention to something when it's their data that's compromised or their identities, right? The politicians. So this story came out, in fact, today. Yeah, I must have printed this up this morning. And again, you came to mind because I was like, wait a minute, we've talked about that. Anyway, let me just read the first couple paragraphs of this story from CNN. The House on Wednesday unanimously moved to repeal a controversial provision in the government funding law that allows senators to sue the Justice Department for up to $500,000 when their phone records are seized without their knowledge. The provision included in the legislation that ended the historic shutdown requires senators to be notified when federal investigators access their phone records, with some exceptions. If they're not notified, the lawmakers can sue the federal government for up to $500,000 in damages for each violation. So its future remains in doubt over in the Senate, but I just thought, hey, that's kind of fun. See, whenever you see, Arctic frost brought up. So I don't know. Do you see? Hell, I'm not going to lead the witness. Talk to us about the latest on Arctic frost and what's going on in DC, and is there anything going to come of this?
Do you remember back during the Obama administration when John Brennan was caught tapping into the computer systems in the Senate?
There was so much craziness going on. I specifically remember the time period, and I was so frustrated.
It was the Awan brothers.
Okay. No, okay. So I must not know this, because I just remember that between Obama's second election and second inauguration. That's when all sorts of shit broke. It was the NSA spying, with the Edward Snowden whistleblowing stuff. You had the AP reporters. You had the Fox News reporter being spied on. And
Cheryl Atkinson.
And that was another one. That's actually a fourth one. I was talking about Rosen. Okay, so no, I don't guess I know what you're referring to with the comparison.
Okay, so John Brennan was caught tapping into the Senate classified data system. So do you know what the Senate did? Absolutely nothing. And why would they do nothing unless they didn't want exposed?
Mutually assured destruction.
Exactly. And so the CIA, FBI, NSA is allowed to spy on every American every day. And we have absolutely no recourse.
No recourse. We can't sue for $500,000
per incident. That's per cell phone. They have a personal cell phone, a business cell phone, an email, a business email, a personal email. So you're talking millions of dollars. You're not even talking 500,000. And all of that stuff was tapped into. Was it wrong? Yes. But it is either wrong for everyone or it's wrong for no one.
Huh. Yeah, I'm just looking at the rest of this story here. I mean, it's the same thing with insider trading, man. Rules for thee, but not for me.
What about the COVID-19 mandate? They exempted themselves.
Yep.
They're exempted. Yep. They're exempted from FOIA. You can't FOIA a senator.
I should run for office just so I can have all these protections. How cool to be an elite.
You literally can be a criminal and be a congressman. And I would venture to say most of them are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, John Edwards, it wasn't what he was talking about when he was John Kerry's running mate in 2004. But he said there are two Americas. Sure, shit is. There's two Americas. Or George Carlin, it's one giant club and you're not in it. And that's what it feels like over and over again with this stuff. Okay, well, that was a happy story to bring up, right? So I whenever I saw, Arctic Frost, I was like, oh, I have to bring that to the table today. Something else that I hadn't originally planned on bringing to the table today to our conversation is this Venezuelan thing. And it seems to be escalating quite a bit. In fact, multiple people, they sent me an interview that Alex Jones did with Patrick Byrne. And he's the billionaire entrepreneur, and he has past connections to American intelligence. I mean, the man's lived a fascinating life. That there is no doubt there. So I did. So when so many people send me something, I'll let y'all in a little inside baseball here with Keith. When I get enough of those pings, I'm like, all right, I guess I better watch this because a lot of people are sending me this. It's how I was able to watch the Tucker Carlson, Matthew Crooks special from last week because so many of you were blowing up my DMs with those links. So thank you for that. And that was fascinating. Holy crap. Oh, my gosh. It's never ending. It's never ending with what's going on. So Venezuela was the topic for about an hour with Alex Jones. I don't know when it aired originally, earlier this week. And there's a lot. It's fascinating. And so one of the things that Patrick Byrne said was that, hey, I am not for foreign wars. I don't like the idea of going into war. But he's like, Venezuela, we need to do this. And the discussion largely focused on the cartels control. He talked about Mexico is going to be the next in line for a revolution. But he talked about the stolen election down in Venezuela, which we all are aware of. He actually alluded, and I hate it when there was crosstalk between Patrick and Alex, and it just kind of slid by. But what I kind of picked up on that Patrick was still saying was Smartmatic in Venezuela. You remember that's one of the, I'm not going to call it a conspiracy theory. That's one of the schools of thought that came out in the 2020 election, that maybe there was involvement there. And I really was hoping that he would explore that a little bit more. But because he was involved in a lot of that post-election stuff in 2020. I'm taking a long way to the well to say that it was fascinating to hear Patrick say, and I'm pretty sure it was him. Maybe Alex said this. Well, anyway, I think it was Patrick who said, I'm not on the side of the CIA. The CIA, I'm sorry. I'm going to butcher this. The CIA wants. They've got somebody there that they want in power now, and he was taking the opposite view, and that's why we need to get involved to keep them. It was just a mess. It's again fascinating conversation. Longest question set up in history for you, Colonel. But again, I saw that today, and I said, I gotta talk to the Colonel about that because I don't want to go to war with Venezuela. I understand the drug boat stuff, and you've got a lot of questions surrounding who's getting blown up in those boats. But my question to you, who you have your finger on the pulse of all of this stuff, that's one thing you and I haven't talked about. Where are you on this Venezuela stuff, and what's ramping up there?
Okay. This tonight at 8:00, we will be on segment 14 of the unveiling of Venezuela. We have been doing a series. The name of the book that we're reviewing is Corporate Coup, by Anya Parampil. I'm probably pronouncing her wrong name incorrectly, but anyway, it's called Corporate Coup. And so let me educate everyone with what you're not hearing.
Okay, I like it. I like it. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I hated to do this. I'm sorry. The biggest thing Patrick said was somebody in our government was walking us into another Bay of Pigs in Venezuela. Okay, I wanted to get that out there. Now I'm done. I promise. Continue. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, which is hilarious because what was the Bay of Pigs? Overthrowing a government. And everybody always says, I'm not for overthrowing governments except this one. You either are not for doing that, period, or you are for doing it. Because we were told we're not for overthrowing governments except Iraq. We're not for overthrowing governments except Chile, because there was a communist there, supposedly. We're not for overthrowing governments except for Iran because they were taking the British oil back. So they are always not for it except the next one. So that's discounted out of hand and total bullshit. Okay? Period. We should not be overthrowing other countries' governments. Period. Dot. End of story. Let's talk about the cartels. The cartel that supposedly is in Venezuela is called the Cartel del Sol. It was created a very long time ago by two National Guard generals in Venezuela, paid by the CIA to set up Cartel del Sol.
That sounds familiar.
Doesn't it?
It's a story. Okay. It's a story as old as time. The CIA meddling around.
So we're going to be upset that there's a cartel in Venezuela that the CIA literally paid to have set up. Okay. And why would they do that? Because they needed a network in order to traffic drugs from Colombia through Venezuela.
Yeah.
So that they could then implicate Venezuelan government and control them if anything comes up like a Chavez, that we will target you for drug trafficking if you don't play our game. And how many times did we try to overthrow Chavez's government? Multiple times. Mm-hmm. To include a mini Bay of Pigs. And speaking of Bay of Pigs, have you ever heard of, I'm going to get the guy's name wrong, but his name is Gordon Goudreau. Goudreau.
Goudreau?
He set up a company called Silver Corp, which he claims was hired to launch a mini Bay of Pigs.
How long
in
ago?
2019.
2019, okay.
And who would have been behind that? Pompeo, Mr. CIA, State Department guy, John Bolton, and this really weird guy who keeps resurfacing by the name of Elliot Abrams, who is literally a convicted criminal for criminal activity to overthrow a government in Nicaragua called Iran-Contra, who Mr. CIA George Bush Sr. pardoned when he became president. So Elliot Abrams was hired by John Bolton to overthrow the Maduro government using this guy, and they launched a drone attack at him. They've tried multiple times.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, let's talk about Smartmatic. Do you know
All right.
Do you know where Smartmatic was made?
You tell
Where
me.
was the company registered?
I thought it had some sort of connection to Venezuela back.
Oh, it does.
Okay.
But the company was created in South Florida.
Oh, okay.
By Venezuelan expats. The same Venezuelan expat community that lobbied for regime change and the fake recognition of Juan Guaido as a fake president. So, my comment to anybody that brings up Smartmatic is it's used here.
Yeah.
If you can have a corrupt election using Smartmatic in Venezuela, you had a corrupt election in America using Smartmatic.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have it both ways. You can't say, which our government did, that ours was absolute perfect, and then out of the other side of their mouth say the election in Venezuela was rigged with the same machines.
Yep.
And Smartmatic, again, is used in multiple countries. Are their elections all fake? And it was created in the United States.
Cool. I think I need a whole show on Smartmatic. Honestly. And you know,
I was shocked when I looked that up because I had I mean, we've all been told Smartmatic is a Venezuelan election thing and it corrupted our election.
Right.
But it's not. It was created by 3 expats down in South Florida.
Do you think we're going to war with Venezuela?
I do not.
Okay.
Actually, I think behind the scenes, because Maduro has been attacked repeatedly by the CIA, that the use of them as a straw man, because Trump knows, as does everybody on his staff, that 98%, the figures varied based on the year, 90 to 98% of all cocaine entering the United States comes from Colombia. Venezuela doesn't produce cocaine.
Yeah, you made this very clear last time we talked.
Yes. So the leaves are grown in Peru and Bolivia. They are converted into cocaine in Colombia. And everything that you've heard after the first 2 attacks has been related to Colombia. So all of those fast boats that are down there, those are not fishing boats. The fishing boats in Venezuela a lot of them don't even have an engine. They just row out, do their fishing, and row back because it's actually a very poor country, especially in the indigenous area along the eastern perimeter of Venezuela. Those boats are designed to carry drugs. The country that is notorious for having those boats is Colombia, not Venezuela. Now, is there a faction within Venezuela that is corrupt? Absolutely. The opposition, whether it be the latest USAID trained operative, Maria Machado, she was trained by the USAID, or Juan Guaido, who was also trained by USAID, which is synonymous with the CIA. Those opposition leaders live free in Venezuela. That doesn't happen in a dictatorship. They kill them. So as far as I'm concerned, I have not heard anyone that I have any respect for talk intelligently about Venezuela at all. As a matter of fact, let me throw out a name, because I was horrified at this case that's brought up in Corporate Coup. There was a guy that originally was from Lebanon living in Venezuela. He was actually living in Colombia, had an import-export business dealing in food, and he was hired by the Venezuelan government after the economic warfare started to isolate Venezuela from the entire international banking system. His name is Alex Saab, S-A-A-B. And he was trading with the only people that dared to defy the U.S. Economic warfare. And he was on an international trip, and his plane stopped in Western Africa for refueling. And he never even got off the aircraft. His aircraft was stormed. He was taken off the aircraft. He was arrested in a country that had no extradition treaty with the United States, using a backdated Interpol, thanks to the CIA. And he was held in prison, tortured, and eventually extradited to the United States. And that was for the sole reason of going to Turkey and Iran to get food in exchange for oil. Mm-hmm. So when everybody hears talking about people starving, and you literally have a U.S. policy starving an entire country because you want their oil, shame on every one of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing about Venezuela that you're not really hearing much of in this discussion, this supposed ramp up to war with them, is a lot of oil there. I don't know that ever, it didn't lower my prices after Iraq, I'll tell you that, but that was the whole mantra there, was that no war for oil. Well, didn't
here we are.
Here we are. So I don't believe I've ever really asked you this, and if I did, I apologize, but what is what's your take on blowing up these supposed drug boats there in international waters?
I'm all for it. And the reason I am is I have a fundamental problem with the use of the word drug. If you do your research and you understand the process to create heroin and cocaine, they are chemical weapons. They are 99% chemicals designed to kill people because of addiction. And we are being chemically attacked with weapons that people disguise by using the word drugs. They're not drugs. If you read about the chemical process to create, it's no different than creating like sarin gas. It is literally that dangerous to people. And so you take this tiny little leaf, and by the time you have done processing it repeatedly with tons of chemicals, you have created a chemical weapon. And these chemical weapons are being manufactured in laboratories and shipped into this country, and our government has known it and condoned it and facilitated it since post-World War II.
Yeah, no, I mean, even right down to the PR game of calling it marijuana. So
well, I'm not even talking about marijuana.
I know you weren't, but that's just kind of where my brain went.
So as far as targeting those boats from a military perspective, if I'm shipping plane loads of drugs over here, and I'm shipping massive ships of drugs over here, if I want to give a warning order, a shot across the bow, if you will, if I take a big, huge body of water and I can find this tiny little boat because of my intelligence. And I know on that tiny little boat in this massive body of water, there's drugs on it, and I take it out. That sent a shockwave up the entire network of chemical weapon trafficking that is being done. It wasn't just a few traffickers on a boat. It was the entire supply chain. So from intelligence, satellite intelligence, they tracked that shipment to know exactly where it was in the international waters of a huge body of water. So the people on the other end of that supply chain went, holy shit.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And the bus that they just did, they did one a few months ago in the port of Houston. They just did one in South Florida. It was like the biggest one the Coast Guard had ever done. So now they're busting the big ships. And I tell everybody, they're really serious when they start busting the aircraft, because they know what aircraft they are. They know down to the tail number of the aircraft. We had people 20 years ago sitting at Southcom tracking tail numbers of aircraft they knew were drugs.
Man. Okay, so and I want to take a moment just to say thank you to everybody that reposts this stream. Renee, Beth, I see you there. Kay Valentine, hello. Thank you so much for doing that. Everybody that repost this, so grateful. I want to address something that you said there, Colonel, where you said, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. So if I say something incorrect, please jump in and correct me. Am I to understand that based on how you just described drugs, that would you say that a government that looks the other way and allows the free flow of this material, this contraband into the United States, would you consider that an act of war against the United States?
Of the government against its people?
Right. Like, let's just say Colombia.
It absolutely is.
Okay.
And it's not even, hold on just a second, because I want to correct you. They're not just looking the other way. And we did a show last night on the Alpha Warrior program called Syntac. There was an effort in the late 70s. It was stopped by Ronald Reagan and CIA director pretending to be a vice president, Bush, in 1981. But there was about a 5 or 6 year program called Syntac. I'd never heard of it. CENTAC, TAC, sorry. It was Central Tactical Unit. They brought in people from all over. It was a whole of government, classified originally, operation, definitely secret, if it wasn't technically classified, that went after the network, not the people on the street. It was so effective, they closed it down. And every last agent that worked on those cases repeatedly in this book called The Underground Empire said that they were thwarted constantly by the CIA, the DOJ, the FBI, and even their own DEA, because there were untouchables that you were not allowed to investigate. There were cases that had so much evidence, and the assistant attorney general for that district refused to prosecute it. So it's not even just they looked the other way. They attacked the assistant attorney general down in the Miami area when she went after the largest marijuana trafficker at the time ever, Donald Steinberg. And they set her up at least twice to try to get her fired. So these people, they've assassinated, they killed knowingly killed a DEA agent's wife in Thailand because he was getting too close to their sources.
Mm.
So it is not just looking the other way.
Okay. And I appreciate you going through this and answering all these questions. I hadn't intended to really go deep into this, originally.
There's so much.
There is so much, and I sincerely appreciate and respect your take on this stuff. And the medals on the wall behind you, they illustrate, your military background, and I respect your opinion. And so I'm just going to ask you one last question on this, and then I promise to get on to my Saudi Arabia stuff. I have SA written over here, and I almost said San Antonio stuff. We're going to talk about San Antonio and our deals. Anyway, no.
I lived there for 2 years. I'd love to talk about San Antonio.
Cool. All right. So, so with your military background and your clear opinions on these drug boats and act of war. Again, stop me if I ever say something that doesn't reflect accuracy here on your opinion. Is what President Trump is doing in blowing these boats out of the water, as often as 21 boats now, I think we're up to. Where are you then? Where are you on the use of the War Powers Act? When does Congress need to get involved? How long do we go through these operations in these missions before the president needs to get authorization from Congress? Or is that just not necessary here? Help me to understand this, because up to this point, I have a different take than most of the people on the right, apparently, in that I feel like the War Powers Act is being violated, but please talk me down if I'm wrong.
So I think there's a legitimate argument to be made for that. My opinion, having read the War Powers Act, is that has to be when you are going against a specific country and government. So if we wanted to invade, like literally go to war with Colombia, which again, using Patrick Byrne's logic, that would be the one I would be for, because the entire government is part. And the same is true with Mexico, by the way. And that's illustrated in this book too. The guy that was, his last name was Falcon. He was set up in Tijuana. He had bought the entire Mexican government, the attorney general equivalent, the president, the police, and all of the major cities. They were all on his payroll, like from top to bottom. So there are governments that the entire government is a crime scene. And they are facilitating an attack on the United States in the form of human trafficking, which Mexico facilitated, in the form of drugs, which Mexico facilitated. So if you wanted to go to war, present that evidence, and they have overwhelming evidence that all of this is true for the last 50 years. The same is true with Colombia. You present that to Congress and you ask them for a declaration of war. But when you have speeding boats in the middle of the international waters that are carrying chemical weapons, they're fair game. They are not in international waters a part of a country.
That's a good point there. Yeah. Okay. I guess that's at least for now. That's probably all of my questions as they relate to all of the drug running and all the fun stuff going on in South America there. Seemed like I might have had another one there floating around in my head, but like a butterfly.
You can always come back to it.
Yeah, we'll come back to it, I'm sure. Okay, so now to what I originally invited you to join us for. So thanks for rolling with it there. Saudi Arabia. It was quite a sight at the White House earlier this week, with the horses and the prince and all sorts of fun stuff going on there. And clearly that's a relationship that it's different now. I'll say that it definitely appears different. I think it's safe to say that. And I have a lot of questions about a lot of things. But before we get into my questions, why don't you, I guess, I don't know how far back you want to go, Colonel, but give us a history lesson. Set it up, where we've come from with Saudi Arabia, I guess, up to today. And that might answer half my damn question. I don't know.
And you really can't isolate Saudi Arabia. Although we're going to focus on Saudi Arabia, you have to look at basically the whole of the Middle East. There was a strategy of tension plan that was adopted post World War II for the Middle East for control. And primarily within the US government at the time and the city of London. And it actually started much farther back. And most people don't realize that the core element creation of Zionism is from England, and so is the Muslim Brotherhood. As a matter of fact, the Muslim Brotherhood was set up. The Saudi Arabian, the Muslim Brotherhood, the Jamadi Islamic factions in Pakistan, and the Sufi Islam practiced in most of Asia in their Islamic populations, all originally funded the factions, like the radical pieces of that, that we now refer to as the Muslim Brotherhood and other various names, originated in the city of London. There's a guy there by the name of Bernard Lewis. He created a plan in Britain at Oxford, and he was considered their Islamic scholar. And the British, Israel, once it was created, and Brzezinski at the NSC were all in collusion with this Bernard Lewis plan. But if you go back in time, you find that the Muslim Brotherhood, which was created in 1926, it would go on to be used to overthrow the government in Egypt in 1954 by assassination. And they worked extensively with MI6 in Cairo and the Suez Canal Company, which again is a British company. And when Nasser kicked out the Brits out of the Suez Canal, he was then targeted by this apparatus called the Muslim Brotherhood. And there's a whole lot of history there that I won't bore everybody with, but you have to understand that these factions of what we've been programmed to believe are recent creations of radicalness were not recently created, and they were all part of a plan. I've talked at length about the CIA's involvement in creating the Mujahideen in Afghanistan during the Russian Soviet Union Afghanistan war, and the overthrowing of their king in Afghanistan, and the installation of the basically a proxy government. And the Mujahideen then gives birth, because it was trained and funded by the CIA, gives birth to ISIS and Al Qaeda. And so you just have this ever flowing supply of terrorists. And you can look at that very similar to Operation Gladio and its factions in Europe, because not only do they ensure domestic control within the specific countries they're set up in, they are then used as agents to deploy around the world to commit terrorist attacks.
It's here. You know what? This is what's so fascinating is that every time we end up having one of these conversations, there are so many tentacles in so many places that it's Hydra. I mean, it's all connected.
Correct.
It's fascinating. It's terrifying. It's
And
depressing, but it is fascinating.
okay.
Mhm.
So if you understand that all of the instability that, and of course it's all related to oil, just like Venezuela was, or is. So controlling the Middle East was paramount to the British because they had the concession in Iran. We had the concession in Saudi Arabia. And so in order to control, what they do is they create controlled chaos. So we're going to have all of this shit going on. And anytime that you have the chaos, you end up with control of everything because you're literally controlling the chaos. You're instigating it to effect control over that region. So if you look specifically at Saudi Arabia, especially during the 70s and 80s, the Khashoggi family, Aiden Khashoggi, Mr. Weapons Manufacturing, who set up the Safari Club in Kenya when Jimmy Carter fired all the covert agents, and George H.W. Bush was in the Safari Club running a fake CIA as an alter ego. The Jamal Khashoggi was not a journalist, and we can talk about him in a minute. There was a corrupt element within the Saudi government that was in bed with everybody. The Saudi government, after Bush gets out of office, him and Baker and a few other people, Carlucci, set up the Carlyle Group. And the Carlyle Group was notorious for buying major stakes in the military-industrial complex. Then they turn around and sell a major chunk of the Carlyle Group to who? The royal family in Saudi Arabia. So now the Saudi Arabian government is making money from the military-industrial complex in the United States while they are hosting the United States and getting aid from us for the weapon systems that they're making a profit on. Yeah. So when you understand the entire picture, a lot of this starts to make sense. And the way they were controlling a lot of the governments is through these organizations like the Muslim Brotherhood and the ISIS factions and the Al-Qaeda factions. And so they did the same thing throughout Africa. They used the Muslim religion and the radical terrorists that they were producing to control countries that they wanted to steal the resources from. And so you can't look at just one element of this because it's tied to everything. So there was a purge during Trump's first administration of the rotten elements of the Saudi government, and that produced MBS. MBS is not part of the rot that was in the Saudi government. So the Saudi government funded a large chunk of the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, which was a CIA front bank, used to money launder drug trafficking, weapons trafficking, and all that other stuff. BCCI rose within a few years to be the 7th biggest bank in the entire world because it was doing multi-billions of dollars every day in money laundering. So the corrupt Saudi government was all involved in that. So they had their hands in literally everything. So Trump's mission was to rid the Middle East. And oh, by the way, all of these governments that were controlled by the City of London were in bed with Israel. Every single one of them. The Saudi Arabia and Israel was working hand in hand with the UAE in order to attack Yemen. So there was literally a web of coordination that was done. Then along comes Trump. When Trump was able to get the Abraham Accords implemented, for a peace settlement. These nefarious people that were still in place wanted to use the collective signatories of the Abraham Accords against Trump to warrant a war with Iran. It was Saudi Arabia that reached out to Iran and started trading with them that basically destroyed that. And then you had governments like UAE that would not give Israel overflight rights and to attack Iran. You had all of these countries that had normally enabled Israel stop, because now they're on a journey of peace. And they have been thwarted at every attempt to perpetuate this war machine. And MBS, I'm not even sure MBS would be where he is today without Trump. And I'll tell you why I say that. You know, the Las Vegas shooting, you know, MBS was out there at the time.
Wait a minute. Oh my goodness. Okay. He's the Saudi royalty that was.
He's the heir apparent to the throne.
But he was the one, because I knew that I won't say I knew, but
so
I heard
the bad guy,
there was Saudi Arabian,
Well, the other guy, and I'm not going to remember his name. He has like a hyphenated forename. The bad guy is the guy that owned the Mandalay Bay suite up there. He was the bad guy. Where they put the supposed proxy lone shooter guy.
Who was just really mad about his gambling debts, I hear.
Yeah. So
yeah.
The black helicopters that we've all seen video of, that was an assassination attempt on MBS.
Huh.
That didn't work, obviously. Do you know that a year to the day, using Middle East time, was the day Jamal Khashoggi was assassinated?
That's interesting.
Because for whatever reason, I've never seen the intelligence. The intelligence that MBS got was he was part of the plot. And they also, but he didn't order the killing. The bad element of Saudi Arabia set MBS up by killing Jamal, so that everybody in the world would think MBS had ordered his assassination.
Wow, that's a new angle.
And what happens as soon as anybody talks about Saudi Arabia now, they stick that moniker on him.
Yeah.
Trump is correct. He didn't have anything to do with Jamal Khashoggi's assassination. The bad element in Saudi Arabia did that to hamstring him for the rest of his life. Trump threw him a lifeline, and that's the reason why Trump got the sword dance during his first administration. That's why they are as close as they are during the second administration. So, again, there's so much to the whole story of the Middle East and the intrigue that goes on there that most people don't know.
I'm going to ask you two questions here, and please forgive me in advance. The first one is, so if you had to label good or bad, I realize there are no black and whites in the world, but if you had to say good or bad guy for MBS, Saudi Arabia, good guy, bad guy? Had to
good guy.
Good guy. Okay, now, so here's where I'm gonna get you in trouble. When it comes to the Middle East, would you say that MBS and Saudi Arabia at present are better allies for the United States than Israel?
Yes. Given the current governments.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that Las Vegas, man. Oh gosh, we could do this. Everything. We could just you're just going.
Well, what country was that guy's girlfriend from?
Oh, I thought it was the Philippines. I may be wrong on that.
It is the Philippines.
Yeah.
And where does the CIA have their one of many terrorist training camps that they've used since post-World War II? The Philippines.
Yeah, don't get me started on the Philippines in Oklahoma City either.
Exactly.
I mean, it's all.
Why is there always those connections?
I'm looking for my Oklahoma City full report book here. It's fascinating. Okay, Colonel, I tell you, I mean, I don't even see. We get to these discussions, we get to like this fork in the road, you know, and it's not the Robert Frost, you know. I can go one less traveled, or I can go this one here, and that makes all the difference. Instead, I'm standing here, I'm looking about like 6 or 7 different lines of questioning to go down here, but I'll try to stick to my Saudi Arabia stuff here. Okay, so MBS comes to town. Unless there's more history that you wanted to lay the groundwork with.
No,
here.
okay. Go ahead.
So, pomp and circumstance, a big to-do. President Trump, of course, probably stinging the entire time that he's showing MBS around, that he doesn't have his ballroom built yet, to kind of, you know, compared to what he just saw.
Beautiful
ballroom, yeah. Compared to what he just saw a few months ago there in the Middle East when he was taking his tour. But it seems like a sincere friendship. It seems like the two men genuinely like each other. And I mean, I want my country to get along with other countries and not be pushed around by them. And I don't get that sense at all. And these deals, still part of me, I guess, is stuck in the past with this mindset, whether it's just being under the thumb of OPEC in my childhood, for example, or 15 of the 19 supposed hijackers in 9/11 from Saudi Arabia, or whether it's the whole Muslims can lie to your face, you know, for the greater good. Whatever it is, I'm just laying my cards on the table. Whatever it is, I'm either programmed to be cautious about any kind of new relationship or new friendships in the Middle East. And that might be just a character flaw. I don't know, or maybe just because I'm old school. Help me to understand that, and I think you have. This is real, right? Like, this isn't some act that MBS is putting on.
So here's a few data points for you. In countries that have had century-old composite demographics, take Lebanon, for example. I was just talking to a guy a couple of days ago that grew up in Lebanon. That's his home country. Muslims, Christians, Jewish people, every faction of Christianity, whether you're Catholic, Protestant, or whatever, lived in Lebanon for a very long time and never hated each other. They got along. They played kickball in the streets. If you go to other countries like Yugoslavia in the Serbian-Croatia fake bullshit, in order to create the Muslim-Christian divide, the CIA shipped Muslims from Afghanistan and Tajikistan into that area to become the Muslim problem. The same thing is true in Chechnya, in Russia. The Muslims that created the problem there were not organic. And so most people don't know that a lot of the original mosques in the 1990s were funded covertly and radicalized by the CIA inside the United States. So you have entire factions of the Muslim religion that are not organic at all. The Muslim Brotherhood is one of them. They're not organic. They were literally created in 1920 whatever by the Brits. And they were created to do exactly what they've done to make you feel the way you do.
Yeah, there you go. So we have, it seems like a very fruitful visit for MBS, which, by the way, before we go any further, I thought this was a great promotion here for your Rumble channel by Kay Valentine. Just popped up in the comments there. Join book club, and Colonel Towner's info is less overwhelming. She talks about it every day, and it's easier to learn smaller segments or check out Alpha Way Wednesday show. So that's cool. Yeah, and I will admit I don't watch it as often as I should. So it's just, yeah, I love that. That's a great endorsement right there. Check that
She's
out.
one of my regulars, and it does
That's
take
cool.
a commitment of time.
Yeah.
But they're only 1 hour. The other hour that we do is question and answers. And I specifically, like I tell everybody, I've read over 120 books in the last 3 years on this topic. And I specifically I covered this book here, the one that's called The Underground Empire, is 1,000 pages. It took me about 2 weeks to read it, and I summarized it last night in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So trust me, the amount of time it takes to listen to the information is significantly less than what I have invested in it.
Bless you. So, okay, so I guess the first eyebrow-raising information from the Saudi Arabia visit here is the selling of the F-35s. I think it's going to be up to 48 or something like that. I did think that I got a message from a Jonathan he said that basically the message was, the key to know, I guess, how close this relationship is what kind of markup was it on those jets? You know what I'm saying? Like, what kind of profit did we make off of those? Did we cut a deal? Did we give them a friends and family discount? So anyway, so that was interesting. What do you make of that?
I think it's a checkmate to the people in the Middle East, to even the military capability in that area. We want the countries over there to be able to sustain their sovereignty without needing us.
Okay, now, see, that's how you get somebody like me on board. When you say it like that.
Exactly. You can't have one country over there having something that the other countries don't have, because as soon as you do that, you have instability by default.
That's very, very interesting. I like that perspective. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay.
It's called strategic deterrence.
Yeah. What do you think of Trump's team? I'm getting a little off the path here. What do you think of Trump's team right now compared to the first term? I put it on a T. I put it on a T for you.
I think it leaps and bounds differently, but I think for different reasons. I view Trump's. So I think there was two parts to Trump's first administration. I think there was an element of Trump's first administration that none of us knew about and could appreciate because we didn't know about it. And I believe that he intentionally stuck people in positions to show you how bad they were. When he realized at the beginning he wasn't going to get who he wanted, like General Flynn, okay, fuck you. Put John Bolton in there. And then you watch what a crazy man he is. He's the establishment. And what did he do? He went on television, admitted that he had orchestrated coups, because that's how stupid they are. Mike Pompeo. Okay, you want to expose the West Point Mafia? Put him in the CIA and then put him in front of the Secretary of State and let him try to overthrow Venezuela and fail miserably. And so I think the top layer of people there were helplessly inept. And it exposed just how evil these establishment people are. And so when you come to the second term, you have something completely different. Kash Patel is not political. Kash Patel had worked as a prosecutor and an assistant to Devin Nunes. And he is now running the FBI and running circles around all of them. He has arrested tens of thousands of people, found children that was enveloped in child trafficking, and people that had basically been run out of the system, like Dan Bongino. They are now like hit the ground running. The only one that I was very, very skeptical about was Marco Rubio, only because I know him because he's from my home state. He has been an open borders advocate his entire life. And I don't know what happened between him and Trump. Something happened because he's been a very good Secretary of State. Would I trust him in a room? No. But there's something that happened because he is not his former self in any way.
It seems like he was born for the role of Secretary of State.
Well, it seems like that now.
Right.
If you go back and you look
at
I
know. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like right now, it's amazing. I will say, and we don't need to get off on a tangent. At some point in the future, I would love to have a conversation with you about this new and improved FBI and Kash Patel, because I have not been more disappointed in a member of this administration than I have been in Kash Patel. But again, that's another conversation. I'm glad to hear that someone I respect, yourself, actually thinks he's doing a good job.
Now again, let me say this. I've spent the last 3 years knowing how corrupt the FBI is, like from its original charter, corrupt. J. Edgar Hoover. I can't even imagine. I went into units that were pretty screwed up, and you only get 2 years to fix them. I know what it's like. As a matter of fact, one job I took, and I won't mention where it was at, as a squadron commander, I got a call from a peer that said if I had a civilian that I fired, which is unheard of because I'm told that you can't ever do that, which I did. I was told that if I fired that civilian, my tires would be slashed. So there are assignments that you will go on that the entire organization is corrupt. Like the entire organization. You can't fire everybody. You have to fix a plane while it's flying. And that's almost physically impossible.
I mean, is it possible that the FBI is just so corrupt that it's beyond repair?
In my opinion, it is. The CIA needs to go away.
Yes.
We spent 150 years without an FBI. We spent 200 years without a CIA. And as far as I'm concerned, they are corrupt beyond repair.
And that's the word. I mean, you've used it many times here, and I agree completely.
In the case of the FBI, it is the only authority that we currently have to shut the cartels inside America down with jurisdictional authority. And so whatever team that he has gathered around him, which does not include probably 70% of the entire agency, while they're sabotaging him, I truly believe he's doing the best he can. He was the guy that exposed Russiagate for Nunes. So I don't believe Kash Patel's a bad guy.
Yeah, and I'm not saying necessarily that he's a bad guy. I just I wonder if that corruption is just so much that and it's just, I'm theorizing here, that it maybe
what do you think is corrupt?
Maybe it's calling the shots, and not him as much as he would like to, because the Kash Patel before he became FBI director that I would hear on podcasts and interviews, that's the guy that I wanted in that role. But what I will say what I will say that the way that he has treated the whistleblowers is at this point just completely unforgivable. But again, we could have a whole nother conversation, and I didn't mean to get off on tangent here.
No, that's fine.
But, I mean, these are people that he tweeted out in August would be reinstated by the end of September. And if you want to check in with any of them, they are not. And they have been absolutely dicked around. They haven't received their promised. This is a written agreement by the U.S. government, which, of course, as you know, is always worth the paper it's written on. And it's
kind of like bringing all the COVID-19 military that was kicked out back on. And I think they maybe have a handful.
Yes.
But that's the exact same thing. If he doesn't go down there and actually do the paperwork himself, which he cannot do, the same thing is happening in the Department of War, because what's happening is Hegseth signed, this is going to happen. Yeah. All of the secretaries said this is going to happen, but they are not the ones that make it happen. The recruiters and the medical staff and the personnel centers, those are the exact same people that kicked him out.
Yeah, I will say I've been communicating with some Air Force people. And I'm trying to get that's the trick, man. I'm trying to get one of them, at least one of them, to come on here and let's talk about this, because it seems like the Army and Navy have made good progress in reinstating at full rank and back pay after they took a stand against the COVID vaccine. It seems like the Air Force is the one that has the hiccups there big time.
And let me tell you something. They could have brought 5 or 6 retired personnel people back on active duty, set up a cell, and had every one of those people back on active duty in a month.
Yeah. And that's where you would.
But they did not do it.
But to your point, I would not say that Pete Hegseth is evil because the Air Force people aren't getting what they rightfully deserve. But at some point, you feel like let's get this ball rolling. But I will say, let me go back to Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. Those two gentlemen, and again, I love Dan Bongino. I absolutely love him, and this is just my dream team, Colonel Patel and Bongino in those roles. And it was the dream team that I didn't even know I wanted. Like I didn't even think of, I didn't even think Bongino at the time. And then when that became a thing, I thought, oh my gosh, yes. But I will say that those two gentlemen seem to spend a hell of a lot of time monitoring social media, worrying about criticisms that they are receiving from honorable people, and trying to combat things that are said about them in the public square more than they are interested in, and always getting, and I don't want to say doing the right thing. I don't want to be that harsh, but I want to say they seem to be more interested.
All right, so let me just give you some inside baseball.
Please do.
99% of the things that you see, even on their accounts, are not written by them. They're approved by them. And there is an entire PR, it's called public relations team, that drafts responses and picks things that are to be responded to. They have it at Homeland Security too. When the ICE raids, where they have a team set up that when people post all of the bullshit, like ABC will go, oh my God, they took a kid and maced a child. They have a team, regardless of what account it's posted on, that will respond to those things. And a lot of times, I mean, as a wing commander, all of my responses, like I had a person that did something really stupid in the community. All of my stuff had to be sent through a public affairs officer before I released.
Okay, but you at the end of the day were responsible for, like, the buck stopped with you, correct?
Yeah, no, I'm not making excuses.
I'm just saying it's an unforced error when the director of the FBI has a tweet that says we got our guy, and you didn't have your guy, and I don't know why you would even say it like that. And again, and we've done exactly what I was hoping to avoid, which is get off on the Kash Patel FBI tangent here. It's just that I will just let me just say this, and then if you have anything else to say on that front, please do. I'll let you have the last word, to quote Bill O'Reilly. I am so shame on me for setting my expectations for a bureau that I have said for years and years, just not only defund the FBI but disband the FBI. And then I got this. You know what? I'm like a damn Falcons fan. You know, it's like you get 5 minutes of hope and you're up 28-3 and you're like, man, we got this thing in the bag. Actually, I never did. I was the one person. I was the one Falcons fan that said we will not win. Yes, I swear to you, I copied and pasted that damn tweet. Not kidding you. This is not an exaggeration, y'all. A dozen times.
I love it.
So many tweets on not bitter, just saying, but February 5th, 2017, saying, my gosh, congratulations, you guys did it. I copied and pasted, and I should have screenshotted that entire text. Anyway, I'm getting, you talk about Mr. ADD. That's this guy. But what I'm saying is, I had so much hope. I had so much hope for this FBI. And shame on me. Shame on me for thinking things were going to be different. Now, I will say, though, I remember this moment during the 2024 campaign when all of these great things were happening with the campaign, and you could feel the excitement. And, oh, my gosh, you know, Elon Musk can be a part of this. I mean, Doge ended up not doing nearly what Elon says is capable of doing. RFK and Trump on stage shaking hands. This is great. He's going to be HHS, I bet. Something like that. You know, like that right there, that was the one thing that ultimately, I guess, lived up to expectations from my perspective, was what RFK has done at HHS. I think Trump got all the best people that he could around him, but man, that swamp and whatever corruption is affecting.
What about DHS?
DHS, yes, good call there. Yep. I need to see some more deportations, but it's coming up. No, that's a good one. Yes. And please don't misunderstand me. That was the one. I'm just saying that's the one that I was personally invested in, got my hopes up, that lived up to it. I'm not saying these other agencies haven't been doing great things. I'm saying when equated with expectations,
Your
that's the only one that
expectations were met.
Yeah. So anyway, okay, so we're Saudi Arabia is unless you wanted to say anything further there on the FBI stuff.
I'm
okay.
good.
All right. So this it's I'm gonna screw this up, but it's like the non-NATO super duper best friend ally thing that Trump and MBS. I think I have it printed up here. It's called what is it? You know what I'm talking about, the non-NATO ally. Anyway, so what exactly is that? Because I've done some reading since that announcement that Trump made at the White House dinner, and what I was trying to figure out is there's going to be like an Article 5 NATO thing where, hey, attack on one is attack on all. I haven't seen that. It doesn't seem anything like that at all.
No.
Which is good. You don't want that commitment in the middle damn East, okay?
No. No, as a matter of fact, I think he's doing everything he needs to do to make sure that's never even a possibility.
Yeah.
And the best thing you can do, like I said, is to create a atmosphere of peace with a strategic deterrence.
Yeah. By everything that I'm seeing, it's almost just like we got a bestie in a bad hood.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
That's basically. I think that sums it up, right? This was interesting, though. This nuclear agreement that allows American companies to go over there and build nuclear power plants. Hello. First of all, cool. That's cool. I love capitalism. I love it. Fine. Can we get some of those built in America? But anyway, I thought that was interesting.
Well, he talked about reopening 3 Mile Island.
Yes, that is accurate. Yep. So
I just don't want Bill Gates doing any of it with his little mini nuclear things.
You remember when the Berlin Wall fell and the Soviet Union opened up and you had the McDonald's and the blue jeans and everything going over there. Yeah, that was kind of fun, right? That kind of is the feeling I got hearing them talk about nuclear energy. Almost like, hey, we're gonna let American corporations come over here and modernize us or what have you. I don't know. So, I mean, that I don't have anything objectionable with that.
No, it's a big deal.
Yeah. And then $1 trillion in investments coming to the United States. That's spread over a lot of sectors,
with
right?
microchips.
Yeah.
Which
Microchips. Go ahead.
Which is huge because of the reliance on Taiwan.
Yeah.
And getting that reliance mitigated, because that's another destabilization. It was done on intentionally to place microchips there when they kind of got overridden in the heroin monopoly.
That's interesting.
Because we like to keep people that we want to control have some vital interest that we can convince the American people is worth going to war over. And if you eliminate the reliance on Taiwan microchip industry, you then eliminated the chance of having a vehicle to convince the American people we need to intervene in Taiwan. It's much bigger than most people
Yeah,
realize.
that's it. You know, I remember the Interior Secretary. This is what you're about to witness, folks, is what's going to be called a segue that I'm going to butcher here. But one of the things that the Saudi Arabia agreement there, and I was looking for it here, there's something with rare earth minerals, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's exciting. And obviously Greenland would have been exciting in that respect as well. But I remember the Interior Secretary under Biden, that chick was so bad. She was at a hearing, multiple hearings, where she was trying to defend our shutting down of going after rare earth minerals in Minnesota. There was some other location, and as exciting as it is to have friendships with countries that can help us in that respect, I need an update on are we going after our own rare earth stuff? I know the deal with China is a year. Does that give us a year to figure out our own stuff here?
What's interesting is the United States, and I mean Canada has a crap ton of mining companies, but the United States has a lot of mining companies that do a lot of mining everywhere else but the United States.
Yeah,
a lot of mining companies.
Yeah. South Africa is important. That's for sure. I don't know if that's
the entire continent of Africa.
Yeah, that's
as long as they are allowed to mine their own stuff and sell it on the open market, I'm all for it. I am absolutely against what has happened in the past where American companies go over there and sign concessions and give them pennies on the dollar for what their material is worth. Which we've notoriously done.
Let's see. This AI partnership. What do you think of Elon Musk? I don't know if you saw this quote, but what did he say? Like, the only way you're gonna make everybody rich is through AI. And you want to talk about a brain going off on a tangent? I watched the Joe Rogan thing that he did a few weeks ago, Elon Musk, and he discussed the future of the American economy, and the only way to get this nation out of debt, and the only way to really get things rock and rolling again is through AI. And then I got to thinking, but if AI is taking jobs, which everybody admits is quite a hefty part of the future of AI, I was trying to figure out how it rescues the economy. And I didn't really press him on that. So I was just curious how that's going to work out.
Yeah, if you look at the entire business model of AI, the amount of money being invested in it, that math don't math.
Yeah.
It almost seems like there's a bubble coming.
That's interesting you say that. I've had the same thought to the point where, and please, people, I know the rumors online say that I'm worth 45 million. I assure you, I am not even close. Like, no. But I have a little bit of stocks, you know, and I had that same thought, and I just said, you know what? I think I'm going to stay out of AI for now. I'm going to pull everything back because it's starting to feel like the Beanie Babies. And so to hear you say that, you know, it's starting to feel like tulips from 300 years ago.
It does follow a very distinctive pattern.
I'm getting that. I'm old enough. Yeah, see, I'm old enough to pick up on that pattern there. That it's like the .com bubble. Yes. It's kind of starting to have that feel, especially the more, in effect, on the Friday live stream coming up tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. I just want to point something out here. Hang on a second. I'm going to get all my show prep for tomorrow. I'm going to get it out of order just for the betterment of this show. But I want to tell you a little sneak peek here. I'm sorry, Colonel. I'm easily distracted. But let me get all my stacks here. Check this out. I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different AI related things. Now, I don't know that I'm going to get to all these stories because I mean, there's only so much time in a day. But I'll say I'm going to go through these here. One's negative. Let's see. 2's negative about AI. This is neutral. This is neutral. That's bad. See, I'm sorry. I'm just so free. But hold on a second. Okay, this is real bad. Okay. This one could be bad for me personally, but for society, it might be pretty good. But there's nothing good here, man, for the future of AI and the road it's taking us down. And so I'm just kind of getting that feeling that hey, you know what? Maybe I was about to say maybe we'll understand that AI not good, that it's in the process of taking over the world. But then I stopped myself just now and I thought, did it stop the internet? No, did it stop fire? You know, like there are good guys are gonna outweigh the dark future that it could very easily let us down. Hello, Terminator plot.
And for people like us, it's very different than a much younger generation. I own a 1990 Toyota Supra because it has no computers in it.
Smart.
I am never going to drive an AI car. I'm not. And talk about the CIA at the same time.
Yeah, right.
And the research that I do, if I put something, if I ask AI a question, it gives me no real references at all. I have to literally copy and paste a line out of a book to say what else is out there on the internet in other books that relates to this. That's how specific you have to be. And then still, it won't give you all of the books. It will give you whichever ones they pick. Yeah. And so I have not found it to be reliable for is if I write a story to prepare for a podcast, I can ask AI to edit it, to not take any words out, but to edit it, and it does a great job. And you know, I was paying my daughter to do that. So
I can see using it like that.
Yeah,
but
I would
trusting it for information. It's amazing the different directions that we can end up going with these conversations. Again, welcome to my ADD world. But you just reminded me of a tweet of mine from about, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago. I don't know when this was, October 26th. Okay, so I tweeted out, and this is to your point, do not trust Alaska football was scheduled to host Akron, but the game was canceled due to lightning in Lincoln. Below is the all-time series history of Nebraska versus Akron, showing two games, and then 2018 canceled. AI checked an alternate universe for Nebraska versus Akron results. So here is the reality. In 1997, Nebraska won. There's 2018 canceled, 2025 Nebraska. Go here, and I want to show you that AI said Scott Frost's first game as head coach at Nebraska was on August 31st, 2018 against the Akron Zips. The Cornhuskers won the game 31-28. That game never happened. The game never freaking happened. Okay, so then I said, I gave it the same exact verbiage. I said, what happened? I forgot exactly how I said it. I again didn't lead the witness. I said something to the effect of what happened in 2018 between Nebraska and Akron or something like that. And then the next search, the same in 2018 against the Akron Zips. The Cornhuskers won the game with a score of 42-28. Wait a minute, but on August 31st, 2018, you just said it was 31-28. Y'all, it didn't happen at all. It's just, I mean, it's unbelievable. Do not trust this stuff, and don't call it him. Don't assign a gender to these AI. That's don't humanize these things either. So,
what AI tool was you using?
That was Google AI. Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
Google.
I.
That's the worst of all of them, really.
It is. Gemini. ChatGPT is probably the second worst.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, when it comes to accurate information, my top two is Grok and Gab AI.
Okay.
Because they may find something that I didn't find in my own search on the internet, and I will always check, but they're not 100% accurate.
But you know what else is inaccurate? It's this row of 1988 World Book encyclopedias over here that still think that the Soviet Union is okay, on a technical sense, that still think that the Soviet Union exists and East Germany is still a country. So I mean, it's just like, kids. Let me introduce you to the library. Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me just ask you just a couple more quick questions here. Long term, considering how cozy, and the word has such a negative effect, so I apologize there. I don't mean it like that. Considering how Trump is redefining the relationship with the Middle East and with Saudi Arabia, for example, this week, have we heard Israel chime? Have they commented publicly on what they saw at the White House this week, or even did they react publicly to his nice tour a couple months ago?
I have not seen.
Yeah,
I didn't look, but I've not seen anything.
I didn't either. Yeah, I just wonder how they're.
There's a lot of people pointing out that it was not the same.
Wonder what they're saying over there in the halls of Knesset. Okay, so looking ahead here. And just briefly back on Venezuela, I will be the first to admit that I know that the president and his team know more about what's happening in Venezuela than I ever will. I completely understand that. And it could be something like you want to talk about getting us into a war, it could be something like the Zimmerman telegram, World War I, when Germany was promising Mexico, hey, join us and we'll give you some of that land back. You get Texas, Arizona, New Mexico back if you just join us. That was intercepted. Oh my gosh, I just thought of something. By the British, Colonel. Anyway, everything goes back to Great Britain, am I right? But
I understand that they had, even back in World War I, using Western Union and everything, they had eyes and ears everywhere.
And I'm not for a minute suggesting that the Zimmerman telegram wasn't real. I think at the time they had suspicions, but I think every historian agrees that it absolutely was real. In fact, I think it was even admitted to by Germany. But my point is, Donald Trump and his team, I do have enough faith in them to know that they know more about what's really going on everywhere than I do. So I wouldn't suggest that for a minute. I am also a tax-paying American who has been through plenty of foreign adventures from afar, and that's good enough for me. And you know, Colonel, and this audience knows that my son he's right now he's engaged to the Air Force. They haven't consummated. It's a man. That is a long process.
It is.
By the way, they don't. I just want to say, for those unlike like me that just didn't realize, you know, I thought it was just like Bugs Bunny, you know, strolls in and says, "I'm ready to go."
I decided one day, and 2 weeks later, I was in Lackland.
That is wild, because I always assumed it was like, you know, Bugs Bunny's like, I want to go and fight the Nazis, and then I'm learning, right? I'm learning stuff like MEPS and the ASVAB, and all these abbreviations are now part of my world. But Ezra is well on his way to join the Air Force, much like you did there, Colonel. And thank you for your service, sincerely.
You're welcome.
And so I just, as an American who doesn't like to see all of these foreign wars, I guess, can you, I'm totally putting you on the spot, by the way. Can you comfort people like me because I don't think Donald Trump likes war. In fact, I think he loves peace. So when I see him authorizing military strikes that don't make sense to me on the surface, I still have to think I trust the man's instincts on stuff like this.
So if I told you that by attacking the supply and choking off their ability to be able to land drugs in the United States is going to cause a civil war in Colombia, and we don't even have to be involved.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, I was thinking, I'm so glad you said that, because I forgot to make that point earlier, is telling the U.S. public, hey, we got to stop the drugs from invading our country. But your motivation may actually be much deeper than that, but too deep for you to try to explain it to us. And I hate being treated like a child by my government, who I put into that position of authority to make these decisions. But at the same time, I have to also step back and say, well, these are who you entrusted.
I wouldn't even say it's treating us like a child. Diplomatic communication with the president of Colombia has been ongoing. We removed their status as a designated partner in curbing drug activity. That's an official designation that entitles you to aid. We removed that from them and said, you are not partnering with us. You're not holding your end of the bargain. That was done fairly recently.
Right.
The aid was announced that it is now stopped.
That's right. Thank you for reminding
that
me.
went along with
that was very early in this administration.
So, at the same time, we are sealing our borders, confiscating ported drugs, and interdicting ships at sea. So each step of the way, we are getting them in the pocketbook. We hit them at the border. We're hitting them at the border, at the ports. We're hitting them in international water. They can cry uncle at any point. And the only person that can cry uncle is the president of Colombia. So you cannot go out on a public stage and call the guy a narco-terrorist, even though he is. He is the only person with the authority to do anything inside of Colombia. Now, he's being offered that opportunity. I hope he takes it.
Well, what do you have any predictions for Venezuela, for Colombia, for hell, even Mexico? You wanna give us any predictions from your perspective?
Mexico is so infiltrated. I don't know how they get out of it without a civil war. it is so corrupt.
Yeah.
You cannot run for office unless you are a bot politician. They will kill you. That's literally the state of Mexico right now. So I don't know how they recover. The same is true in Colombia, although it is in some ways even worse because thanks to the previous aid, the CIA and Southcom, they went down there and trained 20 extra thousand paramilitary people to guard the drug trafficking. What do you do with them? They, from the time they were able to hold a gun, have been protecting drug operations. I don't know what you do with those people. They know nothing but killing people.
Almost
So
sounds like
it is very
a country you should put a wall between you and them.
Almost. It is very difficult for people in America that has grown up here to understand the circumstances in these other countries.
Yeah.
I mean, in Colombia, I was reading what was the book? I have it right here. Mafia, CIA, and George Bush, that talked about a no kidding honest judge in Colombia that was working with what she thought to be good people in their court system, and they had presented some information to her, and with the expectation she wasn't going to do anything, decided that she was going to try to hold the person accountable, and she was on her way in a major thoroughfare in downtown Bogota, and they pulled up beside her in a day life in Colombia. When you're talking about the narcotic element, and it is huge. You have entire if you and I think this is hilarious because it's not even an if, but if you look back at our founding fathers, the Whitneys, the Delanos, they made their money in shipping, and one of the major things they were shipping at the time is opium.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine if they had trained assassins, that anybody that tried to curb their power, and not that they didn't, because hello, the mafia was around and they were basically tangentially connected to them. They operated with their full knowledge. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Going back to the 30s and 40s where the mafia ran everything and there were hits off, there were dead bodies everywhere. That's what Colombia is like. And so it's a level of violence that most people in the United States have no comprehension of.
Yeah. Yeah. I do have one final question for you, and it involves a country that I don't think has even been mentioned one time, even in passing today, and it's China. There is one school of thought that says that that this entire flexing of our military might, flexing our kind of reclaim the Monroe Doctrine, and send a message to China that get out of this neighborhood that you've gotten way too comfortable in the last 10, 15 years when America was under different management. Do you think that there's anything to that theory that, you know what, we're picking out a target because we want to flex some military might down there without confronting China directly, just kind of sending a message? Do you think that has anything to do with the calculations of these?
Well, I think that's intellectually infantile.
Okay.
Because the only country that has invited foreigners into the Western Hemisphere is the United States, inversely related to overthrowing their governments. So because we mounted a full-scale economic war on them, we cut them off from international banking. We stole Citco from them. And we have starved people. Their death rate is exponentially higher, not from socialism, mind you, because they feed people. And they had plenty of oil to feed everybody in Venezuela. And everything that is the Democrats' wish list, Medicare for all, state-run education, they had it all. Once they nationalized their oil because they could afford it. So they implemented a socialism light version of what Scandinavia looks like through a tax system. They were doing exactly what Alaska does with their oil, which they consider a sovereign resource, and they refund people money back every year for the profit of their sovereign resource, their oil in Alaska. I don't get it. Was to nationalize the oil and use it like Omar Gaddafi did to fund all of the socialist dreams. And they did it, and they were still very wealthy. And so are Libyans lived like kings over there. But that's not allowed.
So
we're not allowed to do any of that because we don't like it. So we're going to demand you give us the oil company back that isn't ours and it's not our oil. And if you don't, we're going to take you to an international court that is not international in any way in Washington, D.C., and we're going to lien everything that you have here and steal it. And oh, by the way, we don't care if you feed your people. If Alex Saab is flying over to Turkey to get pasta, which he was, and we arrest him, too bad. People starve, too bad. We don't you. Now you're a communist.
Hold on, because I honestly, boy, this is why I ask questions. I have no idea what the answers are going to be. I thought we would be wrapping this up, but hang on a second, because I want to make sure that I understood and clarify, please, for me. Did I understand that Venezuela, based on what you had just said there, was a socialist experiment that was working, if not for the United States getting involved in meddling? Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Wow.
If you go back, just like, have you read anything about the history of Libya after Omar Gaddafi started using the oil reserves, where they had free electricity, free school, free college, all of that? Everything was free. And because he also talked about setting up this same model in many of the other African, and doing basically like an African Union like the EU has, and returning to the gold standard and getting off the petrodollar. And we killed him because that's not allowed. They're not allowed to use their own resources for their own people's benefit, because that means the mining companies in Canada and the UK and the US are going to get kicked out of the country, and they're not going to be able to mine the stuff, give them a dime for every dollar they make, and pacify the corrupt government. So if a government gets elected that actually wants to take care of the people, we view that by our own labels as socialism. But I just told you that Alaska is doing the exact same thing. Yeah. They view their oil as Alaskan oil, not U.S. oil, Alaskan oil.
They get a dividend check every year.
They do, because they view it as their... What about Scandinavia, where all of those programs are paid for, but the people pay taxes to supply them? Is that socialist?
Wow, man, we have so many loose ends that we're just gonna have to. We gotta have more conversations, because this is.
We can call it socialism if you want.
Good stuff.
And economically, it is a government provided service. But you explain to me how a sovereign wealth fund, and aren't they our best friends? We just talked about how they're our best friends. How do you think they pay for all their shit? Through their sovereign wealth fund from their oil. But Venezuela's a socialist country, and we have to attack them if they do it. You make that make sense to me.
I tell you, man, you got my wheels turning. It's good stuff, man. You never know what direction we're going to go.
And then the worst part about it to me is there's probably on one hand the number of countries that don't give a flying fig if they piss the U.S. off when they make business arrangements.
You're going to tell us?
China being one of them, Russia being another one, and we've already cut off Iran, so they don't give a flying flip about anything. And so if you're Venezuela and everybody else is scared shitless of the U.S., and they're in an economic war with you, Ghostbuster, who are you going to call?
China, Russia,
or
so
Iran. But interestingly enough, Turk called Turkey out on it. No, just China.
So, but you don't think that we're going to be going to war with Venezuela?
No.
Why are you so confident?
Because the entire thing's bullshit. Okay. And there's way more people know that it's bullshit than at any time in the past.
Cool. Okay. Well,
they're not the source of the drugs.
The end.
And they don't have a corrupt election system unless we do.
Look, that's the funny thing there. That's what's so laughable is the United States calls out other countries over their corrupt elections. Hello, we're writing the book.
It's literally like that on everything. They're telling you that the EU was bad for censoring people, and we just lived through 4 years of people being thrown in jail. One guy for a meme. We're so good at seeing all of this evil around the world.
Know.
Yeah. And not looking at it here.
Yeah, and you would think that if Turkey is so connected to Venezuela, like you mentioned there, that you think we would we would lean in on that since they're our NATO buddies, right? So
not a word.
I swear. All right, look, it's always a fire hose of information coming from you whenever you join us, and so grateful for your time. And especially on such short notice, please check out the Colonel's Corner over on Rumble. Always reading books and what's okay. So let's just say somebody's watching right now, and they're like, "Hey, you know what? I don't want to jump in here in the middle of a book. I'll do the next one." Do you have the date picked out and the book picked out for the next one?
No, because my schedule varies.
Because people like me keep interrupting it. I know. I love you. Thank you. So great.
So what I do, if you go on your laptop, you can't do it on the app. If you go on Rumble on your laptop, Bridget, my wonderful assistant, has labeled, she created a thing called the playlist, and all of the books are there under a tile. So if you click on that, it has every episode of that entire book. So you can go through, and as soon as you get done, if you don't want to stay for the question and answering, just go on to the next one. Go on to the next one. Go on to the next one. I always try to keep it right at an hour, because I think an hour is a very comfortable thing for people to listen on their commute home or whatever. And we've done tons of different books. And because I do this for free, like literally for free, sometimes, like tonight, I pushed it off to 8:00, and then yesterday I had to cancel it. But we do try to do Monday through Friday at 4:00 live on X so people can ask questions and get answers to any part or add. I mean, my audience is brilliant. A lot of the books that I do, I got as recommendations from them because they have theme. So very interesting conversations that we have. But the very next book we're going to do is this book right here called The Mafia, CIA, and George Bush. And it's about how just the Reader's Digest version that the CIA controlled the collapse of the savings and loans.
Oh boy. Okay. This is and this is your X handle, right? Did I get that right? Okay.
Yep.
At Colonel Towner on X. Be sure to follow along over there. Well, it's always an education. Thank you again.
Sure.
And if we don't talk to you again before then, have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Thank you. And so there is no deep dive a week from today. I hope you're spending time with family. 2 weeks out from now, we'll be talking about the Nephilim here. And then 3 weeks out, it's another Barfly with Brad and Kelly. So join us for who knows what we'll be talking about. We'll be all over the map on that Barfly, just like we were today with the Colonel. So anyway, thank y'all so much. Go follow the Colonel there and also the Colonel's Corner on Rumble. We'll see y'all tomorrow at 22 hours from now at 3 p.m. Eastern for the Friday live stream. We'll watch some animal videos and listen to Brad talk about breasts, probably. Okay, thanks. Y'all take care.